Just give it a sec, Coach. Oh, okay. All right, guys. I think we are officially live, but let's just see.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can do this a little bit different. Okay. Well, I'll leave it on. Let's see. Um,
Yeah, we're live. We're live.
Give
We're
me
good.
one sec, guys. We're just getting this stream all set up. Perfect. Okay, looks good. Okay, guys, we are here live. We're on the Toward Health app. We are here with about 30 or so people within the app. We're joining us within the community, and we are live across all social platforms. I'm super excited to announce our special guest. I met him for the first time. Actually, Brian, Brian well, I should say, we're joined here today by several coaches on our team. Amy Igus is here, our program director. Our coach, Brian Wiley, is somewhere in the background. Brian, if you're around, say hi. And Vic is also here, one of our coaches, Vic Blasmagian. So hi to everybody. So we're joined by a group here. And like I said, there's about 30 or so people here. But Brian Lenskis and I, Dr. Lenskis, Brian knew Coach Bronson a lot earlier than I did. And I didn't know too much about him, but I really got to know him on the cruise where he was a lecturer, and he gave an amazing talk. And then I went and, researched about him, found him on YouTube, found him on Instagram, Coach Bronson, Bronson Dant, and heard his story of, abstaining from carbs, going carnivore, abstaining from alcohol, reclaiming his life. And it was an inspiring story and a moving story. And then I cold called him and asked him to come talk on the the weight loss mindset lecture we did last month, which was a huge success. And he just impressed me even more. So we have here Coach Bronson Dunn, and I have his book, and I cannot recommend his book enough. Go sign up for the wait list. It's not out yet. It'll be out in about 2 weeks, if I remember correctly. Is that right, Coach?
Just over 2 weeks, yep.
So it's called Body Confident, and I have no strings attached to this. It is an endorsement of somebody I really like and somebody who I really, really appreciate, love his work, love what he's doing. So go get this book, Body Confident. And we're going to talk about Coach today, hear a little bit about his story, and have a discussion. So, Coach, I am happy to have you here. Thanks for coming. And I know you got a busy schedule. And, another shout out to his better half. Okay, Coach Natalie. Okay. I don't know if your mic's working. Hopefully the mic's working. Your mic's working, but a shout out to his better half, Coach Natalie. If you're watching, you're the better half. My wife,
she's the prettier half.
Talking about having you guys both over. We're gonna do some ethnic cuisine together. So if you're watching, better half. Anyway, welcome, Coach.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And just to FYI,
am I the only one who can't hear him, or is it just me?
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good.
You can hear him? Oh, maybe It's just me.
It's just you. You can't hear me. Testing. A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yep.
Perfect. Well,
I was going to say, just to FYI, anytime you call me, it's not a cold call.
Listen, I got to be honest with you. I was so happy you really helped make that event special. Amy put a lot of work into it. Tori put a lot of work. Dr. Brian Lenskis, Kiyoshi Thomas Clifford, and your talk. I mean, people loved it. People absolutely loved the talk. The feedback we got was amazing. And thank you for thank you for coming and supporting it and spreading your wisdom. People need to hear the message in a lot of different ways. You know, me, Brian, Vic, Amy can talk about it, but we need uh, other voices. And so I
Yeah.
appreciate you. I appreciate your voice. And for everybody who doesn't know you, can you tell them a little bit about sort of your backstory before you got started on your health journey? Because I think people look at you, they look at the pictures of you that are in the book, by the way, and they see the afters of you. You and Coach Natalie, they're shredded, they're ripped, uh, and I think they don't know that there's a backstory there.
Sure.
So that vulnerable backstory, I know a little bit about it. Um, do you mind sharing a little bit about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's always crazy when we see the after pictures. We look at that as if that's the totality of the person's story. We see things on social media. We see this ripped guy or this in shape guy. And it's just we don't even think about all the other stuff, where they came from, how long did it take that person to get there, right? And that's one part of my story I think is really important. Is it took me 8 years to get to a point where I could say I had reached my goal and I can live the life that I wanted to live. So it was an 8 year process of trial and error. And this isn't working and that's working great, but it stopped working. Why did it stop working? Let me try something else. That's not working at all. Let me do something different. Right. So it's a learning process. Um, I got started. The pivotal moment for me was in my late 30s. I had, gosh, I'd been divorced for a few years, had gone off the deep end, we could say, after that. I lived at the bars, I bounced, I was a drinker. My daily routine from a nutrition standpoint consisted of Dunkin' Donuts, pizza, pad thai, French fries at Red Robin, ice cream, and alcohol. That was pretty much what my life consisted of for many years in my 30s. Um, I went to the gym on a regular basis. It was more of a social outing. Me and the guys going to hang out for an hour. We lifted some weights, but we never followed a program. We didn't really have any goals. There wasn't anything specific that we were doing other than checking the box saying that we went to the gym. It wasn't like we were looking for any results. I went to the beach with my kids, and my daughter took a picture of me. I saw that picture on her phone later that day, and it just blew my mind. That picture, it just blew my mind. I'm looking at this picture going, who is that guy? Like, there's no way that that's me. I have man boobs. I have a gut hanging out. Like, this is not the picture that I had of myself. I still imagined myself. The vision that I had for who I was still kind of wrapped up in the guy who graduated high school, who the last 2 years of high school, he somehow convinced his academic advisor to not let him take a math course in his last year because he'd already got enough math credits, and took 2 periods in junior and senior year of weight training, then joined the Army and could eat anything he wanted and never seemed to gain weight and was active all the time and could do anything, and everything was always great. And I had that image of myself all the way through my mid-30s. That picture confronted me with the reality that image in my head didn't match the image in real life.
Well,
And
can I
yeah,
can
good.
I explore around here? Because some
Yeah.
people look at that picture, and I got to be honest with you. I mean, I know for you that was a disappointment. You look at that picture and you're like, I'm disappointed in myself, right? You look at that. But for some people here, that could be a good after.
Oh,
Right?
absolutely.
But but
Absolutely.
but that was 80 pounds heavier than you were, if I remember correctly, or 70 pounds heavier.
About 70 pounds. Yeah.
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 So that was something, that wasn't where you wanted to be.
Well, and here's the thing, that was part of it. There's so many different layers to it. There was one aspect of it. The other aspect of it was my health and the things that I was dealing with, primarily from a gut perspective, urgent bowels. It was a known fact It was an understood, unwritten, unspoken rule that if you had to go anywhere with Bronson, he was driving by himself, everyone else would be in a different car. Because there was no guarantee that you would be able to breathe in that car, and or that you wouldn't have to stop 18 times on the way to where you were going because Bronson would have to stop. Right. There, there are times where I was with a group, we were on a bus or something like that. If the bus didn't have a bathroom on it, I would try to figure out another way to get where we were going. Right. That's how bad things were with that. So there was an aspect of that was impacting me as well. On a third layer of that is around this same time. It's the straw, the straw that breaks the camel's back. Around this same time, the woman that I was dating at the time, we had a conversation of, I love you for who you are, but you don't seem to want to improve any aspect of your life. You're content. You're not moving forward. You're not progressing. You're stagnant. And if that continues, then I don't know if this relationship can continue. And that was primarily about my physical condition. Right. And that on top of this, seeing this picture was the last thing that was kind of like, okay, now I see, like, it makes sense. I see this, something has to change. And that's when I decided that this was not going to be this is not who I am. This is not who I want to be. And the choice that I made was to change my perception by building a new reality. Right. I wanted to change my reality and be something different.
I want to like pause, and I don't mean to induce a little PTSD, but you mentioned, the fact that, I mean, you were, you were a shredded military guy, served your country. Thank you for serving, by the way. And this is a big thing. Like a lot of our military, right? They come into alcohol. There's a big alcohol epidemic in our military.
Yep.
There's a huge alcohol problem in men, right? In our culture. Two-thirds of alcoholics are men. So, here you are, like, and I wonder, like, if you can talk to us about that relation to alcohol, what that looked like.
Yeah.
And what did it feel like to be in your body? You talked about the bowel issues, but what did it feel like? Were there any ailments you had? Like, did you have struggle? What was the struggles with energy that you had? Talk to me a little bit on that front.
So let's talk about the alcohol first. The alcohol, I don't know if I consciously used the alcohol for anything other than, I think in a way, you're making me think about this in a way I've never really thought about it. I joined the Army right out of high school. I didn't go to college directly. I didn't have a college experience. I got married at 19 when I joined the Army. So, and I had my first kid at 24. So from literally, like, I never had, until my early 30s, 32 or 33, I never had an opportunity to do anything that was just me until my mid 30s. So when that divorce happened, when I had that, oh wait, it's just me now, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to live it up. I've never been able to do this before. I've been in the military. I'm not going to do that. I did not have I never grew up around it. I didn't drink a lot. There was one incident in the military when I first joined early on that scared me silly about alcohol, and I didn't drink for 6 years after that. But then when I got out and all of this stuff happened, I had this new freedom. I was like, okay, I'm going to start drinking again. And then it was, I'm going to start drinking again. And then I'm meeting all these fun people, but it's always around alcohol. So I'm going to drink more. And then, I'm going to start bouncing part-time. So I started bouncing part-time. And then it was, if anybody's ever been in the service industry, the shenanigans that go on when you're a server, a bartender, a bouncer, that's a whole nother, we could probably do a whole episode of something on that, what that lifestyle is about, but it's completely unhinged. And yeah, there was an aspect of I had a lot of control in a lot of areas of my life. And then at the same time, I was kind of tired of being in control all the time. And I wanted something that was just kind of free. And that was kind of how I went with that. Until I realized the impact on my health. And we can talk about that as we talk about the progression of my journey, because the alcohol piece on the tail end of this is really what got me interested in nutrition enough to get me to try carnivore. And we can talk about that. I was not a functioning alcoholic. I was a social drinker who did not control himself when he was in social environments. I was the guy who would go get blackout drunk whenever there was a party. And then I would recover and then go to work for the week. And then Saturday night, I was blackout again. I didn't drink during the week, those types of things. That was kind of what that was like. It was when I was drinking, that's what I was doing. It was it. Just uncontrolled at that time. The other part of it with what was the second part?
Yeah.
Urgent bowels.
Yeah, you talked about the urgent bowels, but what did it feel like to be 70 pounds heavier? Brain, how efficient were you at work?
Yeah, that's really hard to say because I think I had a lot of denial, and it's one of those things that's hard to quantify because I wasn't paying attention to those things then. It wasn't until I had reached a certain level of health and fitness that I was like, man, life is awesome. But I didn't really pay attention to what was the bad stuff, because for me, the bad stuff was much more emotional and relationship and personal identity related than it was health related. The urgent bowels actually, and goes into the part of the story as well, the urgent bowels actually didn't go away until after I had already lost the weight and was in better shape. And that's part of the story that I think is really impactful, is because I lost 70 pounds. I was a CrossFit gym owner. I could work out with the best of them, but I still wasn't healthy. I still had urgent bowels. I still had these same issues that I was having when I was, when I went from 250 pounds to 175 pounds, I still had the same health issues that I had, even though I lost 70 pounds. It didn't make a difference because it wasn't what I was eating. And when I made that connection, that's where a lot of stuff changed.
Well, if you could briefly, mention that, if I remember, you were sort of paleo, and you cleaned up your life, really.
Yep.
Refocused on exercise, quit drinking, and you lost weight, but yet your bowel issues didn't resolve at all.
Not at all. Didn't change a bit. I went from my progression in the big steps. We'll talk about the big benchmarks along the way. My progression went from, like I said before, Dunkin' Donuts with, a Boston cream or two. But then you have to get the mini wraps to be healthy at the same time. That was breakfast. And then lunch was usually Red Robin with at least 2 baskets of fries. And I talk about this in the book. Me and French fries, me and any fried potato have a seriously long and torrid love affair. Something in my brain, I could not go to Red Robin and only eat 1 basket because it's unlimited baskets. If I'm paying for unlimited baskets, I have to get at least 2 baskets. Like, what's the point of doing this if that's not going to happen? So literally 3-4 times a week, Red Robin is right down where I worked, would go there and get that a bunch of times a week. Dinner was usually a double order of pad thai with chicken, because you got to get the protein, and then 2 sides of spring rolls. That was dinner. Or it was a large meat lovers pizza or something to that effect. And then again, drinking on the weekends was a standard.
It's interesting, Coach, because I ballooned and I never ate like that.
Oh my God, that was all I did.
Yeah, I mean, I would have French fries here and there. It's funny, when we went out to eat, you met Rosette. She's really super petite. She would get like a double burger with fries, eat a quarter of it, and I would get a salad. Like that was like the diner thing. Like
Yeah.
I would get a salad, she would get a double, burger or whatever, and then with French fries, eat a little of this, a little of that, and take the rest home.
Mhm.
Guess who ate the burger and fries at home?
Oh, it wasn't her.
Yeah, no, it was me. No, it was exactly me. But it's funny, like those choices I made when it came to choosing food, I always chose pretty healthy, but then, when I let that pressure valve loose, which it sounds like that's what you did. You like let the pressure valve loose and it just went loose.
Yeah. Yeah. I just didn't really care until I realized where I was headed. And that goes into a lot of my why now, which, when we talk about where I was headed, looking at the trajectory I was going around this time is when both of my grandparents were kind of deteriorating and passing, and I watched that process. And that is a big motivator for me now. It's where a lot of my passion comes from now, is watching what happened to them as they passed and the way that they just deteriorated into nothingness. And realizing that if I knew then what I know now, I could have, at a minimum, alleviated some of the pain and suffering. Um, and knowing, my mom is 70 years old. I'm 10, 15 years away, 20 years away from having to deal with that with her, and my dad, and doing everything I possibly can to help them transition into those later stages of life with the easiest and highest quality of life as possible. Um, so that's a huge piece of the story, is what's the trajectory that you're on. And if you're if you're not in a good place now, the future doesn't look better unless you start doing something now. So that's kind of where another aspect of why I wanted to make some changes.
One of the things, and I'm going to put the book up here again. One of the things I liked about the book was the way you handled sort of the process, focusing on the process.
Yeah.
And I think you made this quote in the weight loss mindset course that we have in the app here. You made this quote, and it was something to the effect of, it's not a 60-day style. It's not a 6-month style.
Right.
It's not a 12-month style. It's a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the way you go about approaching that in the book, and I think your story highlights that, is you don't need to make drastic swings. You just need to make minor adjustments along the way.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. If you look at your story, it's like you're in a crap place. You gave up alcohol, right? And then
Well,
you sort of ate generally healthy.
yeah, I gave up
Right.
French fries first. That was the first thing. Took me a year to figure out how to give up French fries. And then it was in that process getting into some kind of fitness routine. And then it slowly became more just cutting out processed food in general. Then it was okay. And now I'm eating all whole foods, doing a lot more, vegetables, and I'm still getting meat, but I wasn't focused on meat. I was focused more on just eating clean. And then I did a 21-day sugar detox, but I was already not eating sugar. So I decided to quit alcohol for 3 weeks. And I stopped. This is what got me. This is what opened my mind to the idea of trying carnivore when carnivore was introduced to me. 3 weeks of no alcohol. And when I say no alcohol, I was at a point where I had changed my relationship with alcohol to now it was more of a hobby from lack of a better word, a sophisticated standpoint. I become a whiskey guy. I would go to whiskey tastings. I collected whiskey. And I was kind of getting into being kind of like a whiskey connoisseur, of being able to learn more about it and things like that. So I didn't go out and drink on the weekends. I would go try a whiskey at a tasting, buy it, and then a couple nights a week I would have some whiskey. Right. I'd have dinner, sit down and watch TV, have 2 fingers of whiskey, trying different glasses, trying different ice cubes, try all these different things to try to be all cool. And I'm the whiskey guy. I stopped doing that for 3 weeks, and I lost 10 pounds of body fat. It blew my friggin' mind. Like, what are you kidding me? all I did was I didn't change my diet. I didn't change my activity. Not only did I lose 10 pounds of body fat, but the sleep that I had, the energy that I had, everything was so drastic. It was such a pivotal moment in my understanding of how things we put in our mouth make a difference in our quality of life, that I started digging, what is it about alcohol? And then the more I learned, the more I realized I can't be doing alcohol anymore. I stopped. I still had 14 bottles of whiskey in my whiskey cabinet on my shelf, right? And I had those. Here's the funny thing about identity, right? Because that had become so much of who I am. Okay, that was early 2018 that I did this. It wasn't until last year that I actually got rid of the alcohol. I haven't taken any of it. I stopped drinking alcohol in 2018, but I carried those whiskey bottles with me to 5 different apartments, 5 different places. Like, I'm still the whiskey guy. I can't get rid of my whiskey. I love whiskey, but I'm not drinking it. Why do I need it in my house? It took me that long to actually get rid of it.
You know, can I tell you a quick story? I had a patient who similarly was a wine connoisseur and had a huge cellar of wine. And he was the wine guy, you know, and he had multiple bottles of $5,000 wine. And it came to a point he came and saw me, and we determined he had a severe alcohol problem, as you'd imagine. And I'm like, go throw it out. He's like, you know, what do you mean? I'm like,
throw it
get
out.
rid of it. We just talked about how this is the worst thing in your life. And I mean, it was he said that. I mean, he
Yeah.
came to it and he said he admitted it. And it's like, okay, we just determined that. I was like, let's just get rid of it. I mean, the guy is ridiculously wealthy. He had no, you know, it was nothing for him to throw it out. He went and he threw out probably, you know, maybe $50,000 worth of wine and never looked back.
Yep.
And his life has been tremendously improved since
Oh,
then,
such a change.
you know,
Absolutely.
but he had to, you know, there's that saying, burn the boats, you know.
Yeah.
Well, that's a military saying, right? So maybe you could tell me about that more than I could tell you. But he had to burn the boats. Like there's no going back.
Yep. Yeah. Burn that bridge. There's some bridges that are okay to burn. The ones that
Yeah.
lead to your past life that you don't want anymore. Right. Sometimes if you have a path back, you'll take it. If you don't, you can't. So that awareness and that kind of light bulb of, okay, wait a minute, nutrition makes a difference, is really, and this is, again, I owned a gym. I had, this was kind of that second epiphany. I had owned a gym. I was in shape. I could do all these things, but then I'd lost 70 pounds, but then wait a second, now I'm 20 pounds back up. I'm 30 pounds back up. How am I gaining weight when I'm exercising 4 or 5 days a week, when I'm doing all these different things, when I lost 70 pounds? How come I can't keep it off? I don't understand. I'm doing all this exercise. Well, nutrition was the second piece I need to put in place. When I was introduced to the carnivore diet, it was primarily as a recommendation to try it as an elimination diet to help with my urgent bowels and my epic, well-known gas issues. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. I did some research for a few days. From what I could find, there wasn't much out there in 2018. And, but luckily the Rogan Baker podcast it had just come out, I think a month before or something like that. So I watched that and I was like, all right, it's working for this guy. Let me give it a shot. So I just started eating whatever meat I had in the house and then went out and bought more and haven't really stopped since. That was over 6 years ago. So when I did that, within 90 days, here's what happened. I lost the weight that I had gained. I was back to that starting weight. Okay. So I went to about 250 to 275. I was back to 275. I had gotten back to like 195, went back to 175. I had within 90 days, I had no more urgent bowel issues. Gone. Didn't have to worry about it. I was still in a habit. I still would go to the bathroom before I got in the car to go to work, just in case. when I got to work, I'd go to the bathroom again. And it took me like a month almost. It took me weeks to figure out, wait a second, I'm doing this stuff and nothing's happening. Maybe I don't need to do it anymore. I was so ingrained in my thought process and my habits. Um, I had gotten to the point where I was working out 5, 6 days a week. And then all of a sudden I couldn't work out 5 or 6 days a week. If I worked out 2 or 3 days a week, it was a good week because everything hurt. I would tear a calf. I would tear a hamstring. I had torn meniscus in my left knee, torn labrums in both of my shoulders. I had herniated discs in my neck. I had all these things that were just adding up and adding up. And every time I'd make some progress fitness wise, I'd have to take it back. And then, it was okay. Now it's 2 days a week. I can work out. Maybe I'll try 3. If I try 3, I got hurt again. I can't work out next week. And that was my life. All of that went away within 90 days of going carnivore. I went from feeling like crap all the time physically, where that had been my strong point for a couple of years when I first started, to back to setting. There was a period when, after about 3 months of going carnivore, there was a period of about another 3 to 4 months where almost every single workout I did was a PR, a personal record of something. It was a heavier weight somewhere, more reps somewhere, a workout faster somewhere, a distance that was further. Something improved. Like, it was like nonstop for months. It was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. And putting those two together, had the fitness, when I put the nutrition together with it, that's when very, very quickly, like I said, 3 to 4 months, where everything that I pictured about who I wanted to be back when I was in my mid-30s was realized. Right. I was in my late 40s at this point. And now it's like, I'm in my late 40s. I'll be 50 in a few years. I have no physical limitations. I have no urgent bowels. I have no excess body fat. I have no health concerns. I can do whatever I want. I never have to say no to anything. This is the life that I envisioned for myself. But it took me 8 years to get there.
It's funny. I deal with people who mainly struggle with weight, and it's interesting how your health and your weight weren't exactly linearly related.
Nope.
How you can lose weight and still be miserable or not ideal.
Yeah, and this is something I touch on in the book, right? How do we define health? Right? If we define health and we include social engagement and mental contentment, I guess that'd be one way to look at it. Then if those things aren't in place, are you really healthy? You can have all the best blood markers in the world, but if you can't walk up and down the stairs, if you can't engage with your family in a way that's physically free, are you really healthy?
I'm curious, what did your family say? They see you make this transition, they see you lose weight, they see, they know about your bowels, and all of a sudden, people can ride in your car.
Yeah, literally.
And what, I mean, you have 3 kids, right? 3 kids?
4 kids, 4.
4 kids. Sorry, I gypped you one.
Yeah.
4 kids. What do they say when they see dad go through this?
It's really hard. Family is always difficult. When I got started, they were all pretty much older and out of the house and doing their thing. So it's not like they were around to see it every day. I live away from all of them. They all live all over the place. Honestly, I think at first, in my enthusiasm, and we all do this when we first get started, in my enthusiasm at the beginning, I think I turned most of my family off, to be completely honest. Everyone needs to do this. I have had conversations with some family members years ago where it was, hey, stop trying to fix me. It's like, I'm not trying to fix you. I just think everybody should do this. What are you talking about? It's the best thing ever. It worked, and that enthusiasm, I think, unfortunately, I closed some doors there to their receptiveness of that. And I've since learned that that's not the case. Obviously, it's not, not everybody needs the same thing. And while this is what the book is about, while the concepts of why it works may be good, not everyone's going to implement those concepts the same way, number one. And number two, from anybody who's listening, if you have anybody that's close to you, until they ask, don't say squat. Just live your life. Eventually they may ask or they may emulate and never say a word to you. Right. And that's more of what I've seen. Once I realized I just need to keep my mouth shut and live my life. My mom got involved. My mom has been in 70, 85, 90% carnivore for the past 5 years. She started going to CrossFit when I owned my gym. She went through a similar transition. She started with fitness with me. She joined my gym to be a supporter of me as the gym owner. When I went carnivore, about a year into it, she was like, "Hey, what are you doing? Is this thing, can it help me? Whatever." I was like, "Yeah, give it a shot." And I helped her with it. She's been pretty much doing it for about 5 years now. My dad has tried it on and off. Whenever he feels like things aren't going the way he wants them to go, he goes carnivore. My brother's tried it for a little bit. My sister hasn't tried it yet. So it's kind of I just keep doing what I'm doing. And then hopefully what I'm doing personally, and then the story of the people that I'm helping as much as possible, hopefully gets brought home more. And they decide to take it on for themselves.
I know you've coached, hundreds, maybe thousands of people. And, that when you progress people through sort of body transformations, and health transformations, weight transformations, you learn a lot. I still learn. I'm still 9-ish, 10, almost 10 years ish into my own journey. And, I've had 7 or 8 years working with people, dealing with weight loss and diabetes. And I learn every day. I'm learning every day. So I know you've been exposed to a lot of wisdom. And I think one of the things when I was going through parts of your book was, another shout out to the book one more time. And you can let us know later if it's going to be on Audible or not.
It will be. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm actually waiting for the files this week so I can upload them and get them all authorized before the end of the month.
Okay. So one of the things I notice is, and I've seen this with people with a fitness background, who come from a fitness background into coaching versus, that you are a big believer in tracking,
Oh yeah.
right? Yeah. So tell me, I'm curious, and maybe this is an area where we can debate. Tell me what you think in a friendly debate, tell me what you think about like the value of tracking, the hiccups of tracking,
Yeah.
and maybe any other wisdom that you could share, because there's 500 people on social media right now, watching this, any other wisdom that you can impart from your thousand plus coaching
Well,
experience.
I'll be honest with you. My love for tracking starts because I'm a computer engineer. So I've been in IT for almost 30 years, and I very much understand the value and the importance of data. You cannot effectively change the outcome of a system if you don't have the data prior to the change. And the thing that I think we get caught up when it comes to tracking is the definition of tracking and the expectation of how we're supposed to do it. So if we can define that and then set an expectation that's sustainable for the individual, then I think it makes tracking a little bit more attainable for most people. So tracking is nothing more than identifying what you're doing, identifying what change you want to make, and then identifying the outcome of the change. That's it. That's all tracking is.
When I hear tracking, the PTSD obese kid version of me that remembers being 4 years old, running away from mom in the supermarket, going to the ice cream aisle, opening up boxes and eating them, right in the supermarket.
Sure.
That person in me is like, I don't want to track.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to track, and I certainly don't want to track calories.
Mm-hmm. Well, don't even get on that discussion because we aren't tracking calories.
Yeah.
That is absolutely not happening.
So walk me through what you track, what you track.
It all depends on the person, but in general, the things that I like to track as a baseline, these are the minimum things I like to track. If you're trying to make a change, if you're maintaining, and I want to make that clear, if you're maintaining and if you've been doing this, you already know where you're at with your intake and your body composition, you're just trying to maintain and you've practiced. Here's the other thing about tracking. Tracking is not a cane, it's not a crutch. The benefit from tracking is twofold. One, threefold. I'm going to give you 3 benefits of tracking. One, it's the data you need to affect a change. Number 2, it helps you build awareness so that you know what you're doing. You can't say I didn't know, or I didn't have an idea, or I'm surprised at, if you have the data in front of you. And then number 3, it helps you learn what you're doing from that awareness and from that practice so that you don't have to track all the time. Right? So if you're applying some awareness and critical thinking to what you're doing as you're tracking, you can say, okay, when I'm maintaining my current body composition, this is what the numbers are. But when I'm putting my meals together, this is what the food looks like. 6 ounces of steak looks like this. 3 eggs is this. And I can get a feel for, when I'm putting my meals together, what do my meals commonly look like? And I can maintain that even when I'm not tracking. Right. So that's one of the benefits, I think, of tracking that we don't think about. A lot of clients I deal with, if they're not tracking, they have no idea what they're doing. And it's like, I don't want you to track so that you don't have to think about it. I want you to track so you are thinking about it, so that you don't have to track. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get it. It's like a teaching tool.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you track? So it's funny. I'm on a call with a large, hospital system, and they asked me, does your app have food logging and food tracking and calorie tracking? Do you have the calories information? And I said, the only thing we track is hunger in our program.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The only thing we track is hunger, cravings, feelings of deprivation. That's what we track.
Yeah.
Are you hungry? Yes, no. Is the food you're eating making you full? Yes, no. Did a food are you craving certain foods?
Mm-hmm.
Which ones?
Yep.
How did you manage that? How did you deal with it? Right.
Yeah.
So we track behavior. We track behavior.
And that's beautiful. And I think that's fantastic for you, where you are in the progression of a lot of people. And this is the other aspect of it. We talk about, there's a life cycle to this whole process. And there are different tools and different methods and different applications of protocols that need to be applied at different levels. So you're getting people who are just coming in saying, I've been stuck, I'm trying to figure out how to get this thing going, whatever. The easiest thing for them to do to get started is just go off of those things you just listed. They don't need to get into the same. Now they could, but from an ease of access, an ease of entry into this whole change of lifestyle, just going off of how you feel, just going off how you're hungry is a great way to start. There will be a time, and this is where Coach Nat and I both kind of fit. We've, over the past 6 months, have realized that our methods and the concepts that we apply and how we apply them really fit into when you're ready to graduate from being a beginner. There's going to be some point where you've lost a ton of weight, you've improved a lot of health markers, but then what you're doing is too general to get you to the next level. And then that's where we come in. Okay, what's the next level? Well, the next level is being a little bit more specific about what your nutrition is, being a little bit more specific about what does physical improvement actually look like, right? There's a point where getting your steps in and moving your body 3 hours a week is great if you're not doing anything. But once you get to a point where that's not a big deal anymore, how do you get better from there? And that's kind of where we fit in. What's the next step from that?
Everything's got a scale. I 100% agree.
Yep.
Everything has got a scale. So you harped on exercise right now, and I wanna, you mentioned it briefly actually, but you mentioned 3 hours in a week.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell? I'm just curious, how many hours a week do you put in exercising?
It varies. I'll answer that, then I'll answer your question that I still haven't answered yet. What are the metrics? It depends on the week. Like this week, what are we on, Tuesday? I'll probably get about 3 hours this week. I do anywhere from 3 to 5 hours a week right now, based on my schedule and other things. So I mean, I work a full-time job, so I work basically 9 to 5. And between the business and all the other stuff that I'm doing, the book and everything else, working out is something that, because I'm at a place where I'm in more maintenance mode than I am reaching a goal mode. I've gotten to that end point, air quotes. There never is an end point, but I've gotten to a point where I'm not trying to, I don't have any real physical performance goals other than not losing what I've got. Right. So I've been able to transition, which is another aspect of this thing. I've been able to transition a lot of my energies into my work. I'm starting a master's degree at the end of this month. I've got the business. I've got, all the content that I'm making. I've got the books that I'm writing. I mean, there's a lot of other things I've been able to put my energy into because I'm not as focused on my health now. So that's kind of how that works. So my schedule may be, I work out once a week. I may not work out in a week at all based on what's going on. And sometimes I may get 5 days in a week.
What's your preference?
My preference would be 3 to 4. That'd be my preference, to balance everything else that I have. If I get less than 3 days in a week, then I start feeling kind of like, what's going on? I'm not happy.
I'm curious, what does Coach Bronson track today?
All right. So what I'm tracking today, because I am doing some kind of specific testing with things, but in general, I'll work with my clients. So like the minimum I track with my clients is macro intake. So the quantity in grams of protein, fat, and carbs. That's one thing. And then body composition is body fat, lean mass, skeletal muscle mass. Those are basically the 3 things. And then percentage of skeletal muscle mass and percentage of body fat. So understanding the body composition, are you increasing your lean mass? Are you losing body fat? What is the percentage of those things together? I like the percentages of skeletal muscle mass and the percentages of body fat, because a lot of times we think about dropping body fat percentage, but we don't realize that we can have a low body fat percentage and have too much of a skeletal muscle mass percentage. If that ratio is off balance, that means we're actually underweight. And I actually see a lot of women that come in who are petite and they're super lean, but they're super underweight. They could gain 10, 20 pounds because they've been focusing for so long on trying to lose fat that they are under fat now. So I think it's an underemphasized condition of being under fat. We talk about being over fat or overweight all the time. There is a huge population of women that both Nat and I see on a regular basis who are actually under fat. But yeah, so those basic things. What is your body composition? What is your body made of more than just weight? I don't really even look at weight because I don't care about weight. I care about what is the weight made of, and then what are the macros in that you're taking. Those are the main areas. Now there's other stuff that we look at, obviously, if there's things going on. Blood work is interesting for me, but I don't really rely much on it. And then there's obviously lifestyle factors. What is your sleep like? What is your satiety like? What is your energy like? What is your mood like? Those types of things as well.
Yeah, I'm curious. What do you track personally now?
Personally, I do all of that stuff. Plus a little bit more. I'm playing around with something I've never done before. So this is new for
like
me.
you track, like you put your food info into MyFitnessPal, you track
I put everything in Chronometer right now. And the reason I'm doing that, here's another cool thing. The reason I'm doing that is because I'm going through a leaning out phase right now. So the last year and a half, I've been kind of chilling, not tracking, just doing whatever, all these other things going on, not focusing on working out as much, right? Like I haven't been worried about if I get 3 days a week or 5 days a week or no days a week, just go when I can. I just don't want to get out of the habit of going. That's the biggest kicker. If I feel like I'm getting out of the habit, then I have to go because I don't want to get out of the habit. But I put on 20 pounds from my maintenance weight, right? I got up to about 205. I like to be about 185. I was like, okay, I don't mind being at 205. I can still do everything I need to do. I'm not having any health issues, don't have the bowel issues, don't have any of those problems, right? It's crazy. I was at 200 before and had all kinds of bowel issues when I was paleo. Now I'm at 200, don't have any issues at all. It's almost kind of deceiving. Like I feel great. It wasn't until I was getting ready for work one day and I went to put my pants on. I was like, oh, snap. This ain't right. These things are a little snuggy snug. I got to fix this. Okay. Guess it's time to start tracking again and see where I'm at. So I tracked, what am I doing for, I tracked for a week, where I'm eating, what am I doing? Okay. Look at your protein, look at your fat. You're not getting any carbs because you're carnivore. All right. Your fat. So I know for me, if I'm at 165 or higher grams of fat intake per day, I will gain weight. And over that week, I was averaging about 185. Right. I do a lot of eggs. I was doing a lot of butter. I was doing just more a heavy cream in my coffee. I was doing a bunch of stuff. It's like, okay, so I probably should be lower than that. I know that if I'm under 145, that I will lose weight. So I said, okay, I'm going to scale it down. I'm going to get to 135 as my goal, 130, 135 as my goal. And then that's where I'll start losing again. So I started tracking again, did that 5 weeks ago. 5 weeks ago, I've lost 10 pounds just by changing that fat macro. It's the only thing I've changed. I haven't changed my workouts. Haven't changed my protein intake.
Conscious about it, right?
You become more conscious. Exactly.
Yeah, you were like, okay, time enough is enough. I got to do something, right? So something else changed.
Well, just because I was tracking, I knew what to change. Right. If I wasn't tracking, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm putting on a bunch of fat. Number one, I would have known how much fat I was putting on. I would have known my pants are getting tighter. Okay, great. I need to do something. The natural instinct, if you're losing fat, is to just stop eating. Well, I don't want to just stop eating or eating less. I specifically want to eat less fat, because if I eat less protein, I'm also now giving up nutrition. I don't want to drop the nutrition. I want to drop the fat. There's a very big difference. And so that's kind of where that differentiation comes in. That's why we don't do calories. That's why I don't touch calories. I will tell you right now, I don't touch calories. I don't track calories. I don't talk about calories. My clients freak out. A lot of my clients freak out when they come to me and like, how come we're not talking about calories? I mean, because as far as I'm concerned, they don't exist. They don't matter. So that's just my method.
Got it. Yeah. And I'm just curious, because people debate back and forth. There's high fat camps, and then there's high protein camps. I'm guessing it sounds like you're in the middle, both
I'm in
high.
I'm in the adequate nutrition camp.
Got it. So what's let's go with you. How many grams of protein? You said 145 grams of fat.
Yeah, so if I'm maintaining, I do about 145 grams of fat and between 165 and 185 grams of protein.
Got it. And have you ever done an approach where you drop protein to
one time,
grams?
and I hated it. I
Well,
absolutely hated it. I did. So I did Rob Sykes' protocol for a cut. It was the most miserable thing I've ever done in my life. I could not do it.
You wanted more because you were hungry, or
I was starving. Well, partly because it's just in general through that entire process, there is a period where your overall intake is low. And then even the thing that made it worse for me is that even when you're going through that overall intake, when you're going through that really serious cutting phase, what I'm used to is I'm cutting out fat more than I'm cutting out protein. With his protocol, you're cutting out more protein. And I was hungry like I've never been hungry before, the less protein that I got. So I couldn't stand it. I absolutely hated it.
Yeah,
it worked. I did what I needed to do. I verified, yes, you can lose, you can cut and maintain muscle mass without eating a ton of protein if you're eating a bunch of fat. But the process of doing it was absolutely miserable. There's no way I could keep that up on a regular basis.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I personally prefer a moderate protein approach, like just probably 100, somewhere between 120 to 150 grams of protein.
Yeah. Well, so for most people, so my starting point is 1 gram of protein, 1 gram of fat per pound of lean mass. That's how I do it for most people. So my lean mass, I'm about 167 pounds of lean mass. So for me, 165 to 185 is comparable. I like to be on the higher end, so I try to get closer to 185, just for maintenance. And for most people, that's good. Now, the only caveat is if you are a petite woman, if you weigh 110 pounds, you probably only have 85 pounds of lean mass, maybe 70 pounds of lean mass. I don't like anyone to be under 100 grams of protein. So if you're a petite woman and you weigh 110, 115, 120 pounds, I would still probably recommend 100 grams of protein as a minimum.
I will tell you, I certainly do agree mostly. The only time where I think I would consider dropping protein a little bit further is if somebody's unable to be active, if they're really sedentary, if they have a medical condition where they cannot exercise, I don't mind if they drop their protein. So that we have some people who, for whatever reason, intense chronic pain syndromes, paraplegia or whatever it is, they can't exercise. And in those cases, you want adequate protein, like maybe 100 grams, 80 grams, even in some cases is fine.
Yeah, I mean, right. Again, adequate is the key, and I like adequate for all nutrition because there is no there is no absolute when it comes to nutrition. If we start thinking about any of this stuff in absolutes and we start locking ourselves out of potential opportunities for improvement and change, when our body's going to change, there's going to be a time where, hey, you may be going through something where your body's like, hey, I need more of everything and you probably should eat more. There's going to be times where your body's got something going on and you probably don't want to eat it all and you can't force it. So yeah, what your body needs is going to change and you need to be able to evaluate what that is and then adequately supplement with your nutrition.
Coach, I could go on for hours, but we are hitting the top of the hour. We are hitting the top of the hour.
Talk forever, man.
So this is the book. Guys, go out, put it on pre-order, go to the website, right? What's the website, Coach?
The website for the book is bodyconfidentbook.com, or you can just go to Amazon and type in Body Confident and it will come up.
And pre-order the book, guys. Thank you for joining us. Quick thing for everybody who's live on social. We are having a challenge next month in our app. It's a free app, Toward Health, 12,000 people on it. Come join us. And then we have a free intro class. There are 100 people signed up. That'll start September 4th with Dr. Laura Buchanan and Coach Brian Wiley. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. The people in the app, you have a ton of questions here. We're not going to be able to get to them, but you know what? Maybe we got to get Coach back on. We got to get him on the podcast and we can answer all the questions.
Man, I feel like you said, we could talk forever. So if you, anytime you want to do this, let me know.
All right.